and welcome to another edition of Hames Hot Mic. I'd like to thank Simpson Notaries for their continuing support of this program and let you know that after a quick break, I'm pleased to welcome His Worship Mayor Ken Popove to the program. I'm hoping to chat about taxes, planning, and all things dealing with the downtown of Chilliwack and any other subject he'd like to talk about. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back. My guest requires little introduction because he's been involved in the comings and goings of this community for so long, and in so many ways we'd be out of time if we mentioned them all. It's worth mentioning, though, prior to becoming the mayor, Ken was involved in initiating a number of large community events, including beach parties at Cultus Lake and downtown car shows. Ken's been an active member of the Downtown Business Improvement Association Board, the Economic Partners Corporation Board, and also served as a councillor before taking over the big chair. Welcome, Mayor Popove.
Thanks for having me, your ex-worship. Is that what I can call you?
I'm not sure I get any kind of recognition or title, but thanks so much.
Well, let's go with that. You know, I can remember back in the day when I think it was the Country Living Days or something like that, and we set up a stage at the end of Mill Street, and I had to introduce you. And I said, hey, Clint, come on up. And man, I got crap over that because I wasn't respectful of your, of your position. So I
failed to use all the correct titles.
Yeah,
yes,
exactly. So
I remember that. Well,
yeah.
I think people will gather that His Worship and I have known each other for a long, long time, and certainly appreciative of all the things that you've done in the community.
And please just call me Ken. All right.
Okay, Ken.
Okay, please. Thank you.
The first question that I had for you relates to a time of year that I'm aware of, having sat in that chair. The annual budget process is underway at the city. What can people expect this year in terms of what the city's needs are going to be and how that translates into a tax increase?
Well, through surveys that we have put out, I'm sure you in your time did the same thing, just to ask what the priorities are of the general public, and it always came back as, public safety always bubbled to the top. So with that, we are going to be hiring 5 more RCMP members, 2 more firefighters, and on the firefighter front, this is going to enable us to have 2 trucks with 4 guys 24/7, which was our goal the last couple of years. So public safety is always number one. The tax increase is going to be 2.99%. We wanted to keep it under 3. We are still the lowest tax rate in the Lower Mainland, and in part thanks to you and your past leadership to take on the strategy as pay-as-you-go. And we have kept on with that strategy, which I believe is the right way to go. The city has no debt. And on top of that, we are going to be putting some more money into road rehab, that exciting projects that are upcoming. But our roadways are always important to keep them updated and like looking good and smooth traveling.
Yeah, I don't think you can ever go wrong politically by hiring more public safety folks and fixing roads. It seems to always be top of people's minds. The fire department hirings are interesting. Certainly the insurance industry and fire underwriters, I think it's called, have suggested, as along with workers' compensation or Work BC, that it's necessary to always have 4 people attend a fire before you can go into the building to see if there's anything going wrong. I know that that's been around for a long time, and it was something the city had tried to accommodate using paid-on-call firefighters. Now it's nice to know that for 24/7 that can be accommodated by, in fact, our paid firefighting force.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a big bill, though, isn't it?
Oh, well, a third of our budget is into public safety, but it's important. If your house is on fire, you want to have the best available equipment and crew to come and take care of it. So yeah, we take that very, very seriously, as well as our RCMP, to keep people safe. So yes, Clint, you're exactly right.
So when you're looking at the budget and you're going through all that process, and I know it's a long and involved process as each department puts their requests in and tells you how they'd like to spend money. What areas besides public safety are you seeing costs rise very quickly in the city?
Well, you know, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but it is right back to public safety. You know, our community, you know, is growing. Last number I heard is about 2% a year. We're hitting the 95,000 threshold. And with a growing city comes growing pains, you know, socially, you know, with our homeless folks and of course, the need to have a visible presence in our city. Last budget term, we have dedicated 4 RCMP members just to our downtown area, and they are working out of the community policing office, and that's where they work out of, and it's really proven to be a beneficial move to have these folks downtown, because then they get to know who's who and who the low-level drug dealers are, or you know, I don't say the thieves, but the, you know, like the bad guys, and they have done a real good job in you know, clamping down on that low-level stuff, and to have a presence is something that I feel is very, very important.
Well, I think just going a little bit off script here, you mentioned the downtown, and I've got to offer compliments to what's happening there. The city has invested a significant amount, as has private development, to bring that part of the community back. It's looking great, and I think the investment in things like public safety in that area are going to pay benefits, especially if I'm the developer looking at that and saying, I want to make sure this area is safe for people to come to. So just wanted to pass on how excited I think the community is about the things that are happening down there. When do we see completion of those projects, and is there other things that are going to happen? There's other big properties down there. I look at the old Safeway site and properties like that. Is there some thoughts on pursuing something similar for other parts of the downtown?
Oh, for sure. You know, it's ongoing, and thanks for bringing it up, Clint. Yeah, what's going on downtown is you know, like, it's totally awesome. We have a parking problem, which is great. People are coming downtown. Phase 1 is not quite complete. You know, I always call it the greasy spoon, but that restaurant is going to come back, totally rebuilt, and another half dozen stores that if people do drive downtown, you see it's all been framed in. I understand that the Algras are going to be applying their next building permit to phase 2, which will attach to the apartment building that's currently under construction and is looking great.
Just for folks watching, Algar is the development company that you're working with. Yes.
Yeah, we certainly picked the you know, like, the right crew to do the work downtown. They're just doing a magnificent job. There's a parkade that's being built in yourself at Princess Avenue that's going to accommodate 100 surface parking lots for the folks that are going to be, you know, coming downtown and shopping, and for the apartment, obviously. Safeway site is a bit of a thorn in my side. That's one we kind of missed out on. We were accumulating properties at the Five Corner site, and that piece was up for sale, but we were focusing on the downtown. That piece has been sold. The people that have purchased it are a little tough to deal with, if I can say that nicely like that. We've been kind of bonking heads on what's to be done there, and if we made one mistake as a council, that's one mistake we made. We should have purchased that so we can be in control of it. But other than that, things are clipping along. The infrastructure upgrades at Five Corners, I'm sure people have come through there, and there's a couple turning lanes in there now that weren't there before. I know it's it's a learning process. I see, you know, some vehicles kind of stuck in the middle there because they didn't turn quick enough or whatever, but people will figure it out. And
it'll take time. It's like a roundabout. It takes time for people to understand how they work.
And we are going to, last Tuesday's meeting, council meeting, that is, we agreed to turn Princess into a one-way, and also Victoria into one-way, to add approximately 40 more parking spots. So that's going to be interesting. I read the feedback on the survey, and Most of it was good. Of course, there's going to be like the naysayers out there that, it's the dumbest idea. The ring road. Don't you remember the ring road? No, were you a part of the ring road?
No, it was before my time.
Okay.
But I do remember it very specifically because an entire mayoralty campaign was fought over the ring road. In fact, John Jansen, who you recently honored with the Order of Chilliwack, ran against a mayor who, in fact, had thought that the ring road was a great idea. And I remember John's campaign saying, as soon as he gets in, he's going to tear that up. And most of the community hadn't been given enough time to figure it out, I don't think, and they were pretty. You're pretty concerned. It actually closed off Yale Road right at where the courthouse is today.
Yeah.
That was actually closed off and diverted traffic around, and it was pretty contentious. But no, I was not part of the.
Okay, good. I can't beat you up on that one, but I can, just the people of Chilliwack, just be assured that it's not going to be the ring road. It's just going to be these two streets. Like in Victoria, it's going to be angled parking. Princess, it's going to be parallel parking just because of the width of the road. The first project is going to be Princess because we do have to rip that road up and do some waterworks in there in conjunction with the redevelopment of downtown. So when that's said and done, there'll be new sidewalks, parking spots, dedicated bike lane, that sort of thing. So yeah, we're seeing needs, and we're trying to use the spaces that we have. Keeping our tax dollars close, and just trying to improve. Like another great project, if you haven't driven down Spadina Avenue, that looks spectacular. It's a good local builder. Emil Anderson, they did a great job on that piece of road. And that was. So overdue to get rebuilt, and they've done a fantastic job. We are going to do some surface paving to the south in beside the landing, then of course the curling club as well, at the same time with landscaping and proper lighting, and then in conjunction with the new pump track that I really expect to see you on, Clint.
Yeah, well, listen,
I'm going to challenge you to that.
If I could figure out what a pump track was, I'd be there. But I'm assuming it's something for people a lot younger than me with a lot more energy than I've got. But
I would agree, but I have been challenged to try it, so I will try it. But
I'll tell you what impresses me, and I'm not trying to blow smoke, but it seems that when the city is going to do something from a recreation perspective, they go out and they do the best they can. Instead of just that's enough, they have, with a number of different projects, shown that what they want to do is be the best they can possibly be. If we're going to spend the money, let's make sure we're doing it in a way that in fact is the best it can be. And so congratulations on that.
Well, in that vein too, just back to the pump track, it is the biggest track in North America. The likes of Red Bull have been kicking our tires, so to speak, and they need a Canadian location to do their events at, and they were actually waiting for this course to be constructed and put in. So we're going to see some pretty cool stuff coming up.
That's exciting.
This
is exciting. I'm going back to the one-way streets that have been proposed or now approved for downtown, and I think the success of those will be the fact that you've done public consultation on them beforehand, which really helps. It's a lesson that's only been learned, I think, probably since the 1990s. That public consultation before any major activity is going to be really helpful. In that regard, you've worked pretty hard over the last probably a year, I would guess, on the Sardis neighborhood plan. Can you talk about why that was necessary? What precipitated the need to look at the Sardis neighborhood?
Well, certainly it's one of the fastest growing neighborhoods in Chilliwack. It needed a good strategic look at it, and as far as road systems, parks, trails, population of people. So yeah, it was put together, and I give staff kudos. Karen Statten, who's in charge of long range planning. Like back to the surveys, too, over 1,000 people surveyed in on that, which was really interesting to get that kind of feedback from the folks. So it like a lot of the emphasis on that was on on the recreation side, more trails, some more sports fields, which we need. So when opportunities do come up, if we are able to purchase properties or to partner up with developers to create more park space, we will. And that goes with trails as well. There's a couple of creeks that are running through there, and that's going to be based on development.
Yeah, so that's one of the questions I had about this. I know I read a lot of the feedback that came with the plan, and I read the plan, of course, out of interest and in anticipation of chatting with you. And one of the things I noticed when you look at a map of Sardis, there isn't a lot of open space when you start talking about playing fields, which are badly needed in our community based on the number of people that are participating in some of those activities. Where are we going to get land for those playing fields? What's there is encumbered by the ALR, and there aren't any other larger pieces. What's going to be the strategy to move forward to look at that kind of thing?
Well, we did have some conversations with the Stolo, our First Nations neighbors, and they do have a big chunk just in behind Kokalitsa there. It's probably 20 acres or something like that. That's actually sitting empty right now. That would certainly be a viable spot. And you're correct about the ALR. That big chunk off of Evans Road would be nice to see a sports field there. We pursued a couple ideas in there to try to have like a mix of some housing and a sports field, but of course it's encumbered in the ALR, and you're not getting any farmland out to do anything. So it is going to be a challenge. Staff is looking at it. When opportunities come up to like I said before, purchase or partner up to build something. We are getting a new school close to the Vedder River, which will have a artificial turf field as well. I don't think there's going to be enough room there to put in a baseball diamond, if you will, but I know there'll be a soccer pitch in there. So we're continually working, towards that. But you are correct, Clint. There isn't like a chunk of land that's available right now, except for that piece on First Nations land.
Now, you mentioned partnering with First Nations, which I think is going to be a way of the future when we start looking at the community and seeing where there is in fact flat and developable land. In the Sardis area, there's of course Chiatkin and Scoutcale, and I'm missing other ones, Yaquiquius and other First Nation lands there, the lands in central Sardis as well. Did they have impact in the neighborhood planning? What role did they play as you move forward?
Well, they certainly played a part in the discussion. You know as well as I know that they have their own governance, if you will, and for us as a city, our responsibility is to tie in the sewer and the water and that sort of thing. We're continually talking. There's a couple, 3 good young chiefs that are in there that understand we have to work together and into the future. So I foresee good things coming out of that. I know Chief Derek Epp, he sits on a couple committees with me, as well as David Jimmy, the chief of Squala Band. So there's progress being made. We need to continue to open doors and build bridges and do some more partnering up with our First Nations neighbors for sure.
And the same thing, I guess, could be said about school properties, and that's another area that, of course, as Sardis grows, there's limited spaces in schools there. We are getting a new school, as you said, out in Vedder Crossing, which will be great.
Yep.
But we'll talk a little bit about that, and we'd like to talk about some other subjects that I think people are interested in. We're just going to take a short break, and we're going to be right back with His Worship Mayor Ken Popove. Welcome back, everyone. everyone. My guest is Mayor Ken Popove from the City of Chilliwack, and we were just talking a little bit about the Sardis neighborhood plan, and I want to now ask about the school district. We talked a little bit about new schools are going to be needed in the future, but more important than that, the City Council recently approved, as we have an upcoming by-election for a vacant seat on the school board, they have approved mail-in ballots. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, briefly. The school board reached out to us, and well, actually, it was actually the Minister of Education wanted us to make that possible, which we are going to do. I believe that they're hoping to get the ballots out by the 28th of January in order for folks to register and get the ballots back in. The real, I guess, angst over that is Canada Post, just to make sure that they get to the folks in time. Now, if you do get them, just a word of advice, and you don't want to put it in your mailbox, do drop it off at City Hall. Your vote will be counted, and if you don't get your vote or your vote in time, then of course it's not going to be counted. So yeah, it's a feature that through the COVID times, obviously it's it's important to have this kind of an option to put together, and kudos to our staff and our communication staff too. You'll be reading about it a lot in the next little bit, just to get organized on your voting strategy for yourself, and we hope it all works out.
That's great. Folks might not know, cities in fact run municipal elections, whether it's for school board or park board or any of those. That all runs as a part of a city process. You appoint an elections officer, yep, and the city gets, yep, to run that election. The good news for property taxpayers is the school board has to pay for it. So the city gets essentially hired to run that. So it's great news on the mail-in ballots. I know there's lots of folks that think that that's going to be a great way to go.
Great. I'm glad you brought that up too, Clint, because that is important.
I want to shift gears a little bit. Chilliwack is, I think, gaining a reputation for all the work that it's been doing in the area of providing housing for folks who are homeless, housing that would be considered low barrier housing, so that's housing for people who are hard to house, and affordable housing. Can you give us a bit of an update on housing in our community that would be for folks who would fit in those categories? How's that working? How's the homeless action plan coming along? You've been doing a lot of work in that, and I know it's very close to your heart.
Yes, Clint, it is. Back with previous leadership, I was given the social file. I'll never forget that afternoon. Karen Staton, again, she brought in this binder. It must have been about 6 inches thick, and I go, what did I get myself into here? But yeah, it certainly has been challenging. That was back in 2015. Then the following year, we created a homeless action plan with 23 points on it. Housing being the most important, obviously, and following along with the Housing First strategy. And we've ticked all 23 boxes. I'm proud to say that I'm not saying that we solved the problem, but we've managed it well. We've created 2 supportive housing units that have got 92 people off the streets with supports. A third one is coming, which will have about 100 people in there. Is the thought, and that's a rebuild of the portal with some supportive housing on top of that as well. Like I said, it's a challenge because there's some folks out there that are just hard to house, and they won't go into a warming center because there's rules. I get that, but for the folks who do want to comply with some of the rules, and we welcome them. Rain City is doing a great job in the 2 buildings that we have with these folks to be housed. On the affordable side, we've also got a through PCRS what's called a housing hub, and that's Gray McMahon. That's his file, if you will, and he's got about 45 people working with folks that own houses and are willing to rent them out. 45 people, and almost half of those are children as well. And on the youth front as well, Cyrus Center, through BC Housing, has purchased a building complex that'll house another 20 plus youth with supports as well. So it's it's a team effort. We are involved with what's called chillTV communities. When I first started with that, there was 8 service providers that were being a part of the conversation. Now we have 49, and it's all about sitting at a table and collaborating, working together, grant writing, that sort of thing. So it's been satisfying to see the people that are involved, and it's satisfying to see what we've done. Like I said at the start, it's something it's not solvable, but it's manageable, and I think we've done a pretty good job.
Well, I look forward to having future conversations with you, especially about projects like the portal, because that was a very controversial project as it moved forward. And I think the city should be congratulated for managing that process the way they have, with a minimum of disruption. And that it sounds like that's going to be a project that we'll be hearing more about. Before I let you go, because I know you're, along with doing lots of things, you're one of the busiest guys around, I'd like to know how the city is managing through our pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic. How has that affected the city? What's the things that you're doing or the city's doing, managing from a city perspective?
Yeah, different times. Nobody signed up for this. We do follow the public health officer's advice on all points. When it hit, we started to, shut down our recreation facilities. We shut down City Hall because it is a smaller area. We created these 6 little cubicles so people can come up and still do business. I believe we've done a pretty good job. The curve seems to be flattening out somewhat. Masks are mandatory in City Hall and all our civic buildings. Hopefully we'll be able to see some kids on the ice in the next little while if we all comply with what the doctor is saying. It's been different times. It's hard to explain the feeling of it. Sometimes it's scary, and sometimes there's positive things that come out of there. Obviously the vaccines are a real positive thing. So there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's getting brighter. So we just need to stay on track. I commend my leadership at City Hall and in allowing employees to work from home wherever necessary. Our operations crew, they mask up, and they are following along with the 6 meters to stay apart from co-workers. We have had a couple instances where there's been some infections that have happened, but they've been dealt with promptly, and everybody is is back on the job. So it's a different time. I know people are frustrated. People are tired, and for me, I'm with you on that. I'm a social guy, and it's hard not to get together with your buddies and have a glass of wine. But you figure things out where you have a glass of wine in your garage and just socialize that way. But for me, I can't wait till we can get back to some form of normality. I'm not a big fan of Zoom, but that's the only way, in these times, to communicate and keep business going. I understand that, but I don't have to like it. But anyway,
I'm assuming that the city is in pretty constant contact with public health officials. You chat regularly with BC Public Health to see where things are going?
Oh, for sure. And most recently, when this first hit, the vulnerable population, was my thought was going to be ground zero. And it didn't turn out that way. But in preparation for that, we did set up an isolation facility at the Evergreen Hall with BC Housing and with Fraser Health. And we are now in the process of resetting it up through Fraser Health and BC Housing. Through the conversations, they'd like us to separate these folks that are in these shelters, like a bit more. So even by the end of this week, there might be 20 folks in there with 24/7 security, proper PPE, like an area to go and stretch your legs, that kind of thing. It's pretty tough to try to keep these people nailed down.
Yeah.
But we are going to probably go down that road sooner than later. It's a little bit of a scary strategy, but it's a right strategy to get through this and keep everybody safe.
That's great. I think there were news reports of infections at the portal, which I think is probably what spurred this on.
100%.
It's really nice to hear that there is a lot of cooperation between provincial agencies and the city now. BC Housing seems to have come to the table in a pretty big way in the community, and that's great. It's great news. I'm sure it's because you're also at the table, but
no doubt.
It's great to have those kind of provincial partners. Ken, Your Worship, it's just been great chatting with you. We don't get enough chance to do this, and we should do it more. I want to thank you for taking the time to spend a little time with viewers of my new show, Hames Hot Mic.
There you go.
It's been a pleasure, and we'll see you real soon. Thanks again. Thanks so much, everyone, for watching and being a part of today's show. I'd like to again thank Simpson Notaries for their participation as a sponsor in our production. And as always, if you have ideas for guests or questions, shoot us an email. We'll see you next time on Hames Hot Mic.